Hi everybody, Drew here. Welcome back and welcome to episode 14 of the Neurotic Knitter podcast. I'm your host Drew, and it has been a little while since I've had the time to do a podcast. In fact, I think it's been over a year since I last did one of these, so I'm well overdue. You'll have to forgive me, of course, as soon as I set up my situation here. My dogs are now awakening from their fourth nap of the day. So if you hear some stirring in the background, it's just normal dog stuff and normal weekend stuff, trying to get the house in order, all that good stuff. In terms of social media, just in case you're not already following me, it's Drew in Real Life on Instagram and Drew Jacobs 83 on Ravelry. And yeah, let's just jump into it. I know you guys will forgive me if I'm a little bit rusty or a little bit nervous, just because it's been a little while since I've done one of these. So welcome back. Gosh, if there were ever a year to have a podcast on hiatus, I'm not sure if that would be 2020. It feels like 2020 would be the year where I would do a lot of podcasting, but that is not what happened. I mean, you all experienced it, so it was a tough year. From my perspective, I was starting a new job at the end of December 2019. I started a new job. And then obviously by mid-March was working from home, and then a series of events happened. Ultimately the job just wasn't a good fit for me. I wasn't, how do I say it? I didn't have a passion for the work like I did for K-12. And it was pretty clear to me early on that just wasn't a good fit overall, which was kind of a strange experience. It was the first time I'd ever really gone through that in my professional life. But the silver lining to all of it is I started a brand new job in December of 2020. I am now working for the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools. Could not have asked for a better place to be. It's just been such a phenomenal experience so far. Everybody who works there is so kind, hardworking, but also okay to have some fun and a good sense of humor. And so it's just that is a good fit for me. It just feels like the right kind of combination of personalities and seriousness and something I really care about. I think the thing that hit me the most was when I stepped away from the education sector. I didn't realize how much I would miss it. And then the pandemic happened and our worlds got kind of turned upside down, and I really just wanted to be back in education and be back in school choice. And so I'm really excited that I'm able to do that. And so now I'm about, 5 months into the new role. I think things are going well. Like anything new, you've got to find your footing. So I'm finding my footing, but again, everybody's been so nice, and it's a place I could see myself being for a while. So it just feels good to kind of finally be in a groove with that. 2019 was a big transition year for us. It was the year we moved from Arkansas here. I ended my job at Walton. I started this new job. The pandemic happened. The job didn't work out. Finally back into a rhythm in 2021, and just overall happiness going up. So I'm really excited about that. The other thing I guess I should just mention now that I'm noticing it on the camera is, since the last time I did a podcast, I have had those delightful braces removed. So I had braces through July of last year and got them off. And I'm so glad I did it. It was really, really painful. I never want to do it again, but I would highly recommend anybody who's considering doing it, getting braces or orthodontia as an adult, give it a whirl. So that's another big, I guess, life update is I have like a confident smile now, which is kind of, it's strange. You don't really think about it. Like when I went into it, I was like, oh, I'm doing this for dental health. And of course there'll be like a cosmetic benefit. What I didn't realize were two things. One, how nice it feels to actually eat an apple or like corn on the cob with like properly working teeth. That's the only way I can kind of describe it. Like if you've had crowding or kind of weird teeth, not bad teeth, just my teeth were not very straight. And so I didn't realize like what an impediment it was causing me when I was eating. So that was kind of an unexpected surprise. But then the other thing is I just kind of surprised myself. Like when I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh yeah, these are straight now. It's kind of weird. It gives me some confidence, which I guess I'm like, it's not a bad thing, but I just, it's a strange feeling, I guess, to have something fundamental about you change in your like late 30s. But yeah, so that's happened. We're still reporting live from our tiny like 800 square foot apartment. So we live in Old Town North in Alexandria. And when we first moved here in October 2019, before the pandemic hit, we envisioned a very different life. We did not expect that we would be spending like 22 and a half or 23 hours a day here with each other and our dogs. But we have managed it well, and really, I mean, if that's the only thing we have to complain about, then we're doing pretty well, of course. Some good news on this front is we are actually moving into a rental home. That'll be happening at the end of June. So just to give you a sense, we currently live in a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 800 square foot apartment. And I won't share what we spend, but it's way too much in terms of rent. And we're going to be moving a few miles south, but still in Alexandria, in the county part, so in Fairfax County, down close to where Mount Vernon is, for any of you who are familiar with the area. We're gonna triple the amount of square feet that we have. We're gonna go up to 4 bedrooms from 1. We're gonna go up to 3 bathrooms from 1. We're gonna have like a proper living room and an eat-in kitchen and a yard, and just, we're gonna be in a spectacular neighborhood. It was so funny. DC housing, even rental housing, is like bananas competitive right now. We saw the place it came available on Monday. We went and looked at it Monday evening, liked it, had not seen the inside, and went ahead and put an application in on it on Tuesday, submitted the application, got to see the place Tuesday evening, and then Wednesday we were approved and we found out that we actually got the place. So we're so thrilled. We really want to buy a house, but quite frankly, it's insane. The market here is just really insane right now where we live. You're really not going to get into anything nice in terms of a house for under $600,000, and you're going to go all the way up to like $1 million plus for somewhere really, really nice. And so, yeah, we're just kind of figuring out what we want to do. We might just continue to rent. We really would like to buy a home, so we continue to save our money for that. But we're really excited. We're going to do 2 years for our first little stint in the house. So that pushes that whole like house buying thing down the road a little bit, which I think will be good. But we're really excited. Now, those of you who know me know that moving is not my strength. Sorry, still caffeinating over here. So that'll be the challenge for me. Will be like working and packing and sorting, cleaning, and trying to like in evenings and weekends muster the wherewithal and the kind of focus to pack and to want to do that in my free time, which, yeah, it'll be fine, but I don't look forward to it. I hate moving. So we'll figure it out though. So that's exciting. You know, some other things that I just wanted to mention before I get into the knitting bit. One is just Happy Mother's Day. So today is Mother's Day for us in the United States. I don't know if other countries celebrate Mother's Day. I'm sure they have their own celebrations, or maybe they don't. I don't know. I'm actually not sure. I don't know. But happy Mother's Day to all of you who celebrate. special happy Mother's Day for those of you who are either moms who have challenging relationships with your kids, or kids who have gone without a mom, or who are missing their mom. I consider myself in that category of missing mom. My mom passed away in 2008, so it'll be 13 years this Christmas, right around Christmas. She passed the day after Christmas, December 26th, 2008. And what I always tell people is, when you experience a loss like this, it comes over you in waves. So it sounds ominous, but you won't be the same. And you'll have good days and bad days, and there'll be things that just, I wouldn't say trigger you, but kind of trigger you. You know, you have kind of an emotional moment when you hear a song or you think of a memory. And so yeah, anyway, just happy Mother's Day to those of you who are celebrating. Also, I just wanted to give a shout out to all the teachers out there. So last week was Teacher Appreciation Week. I think like every day should be Teacher Appreciation Day. Every week should be Teacher Appreciation Week. I just can't thank educators enough. I think about my own life, my own story, and it was remarkable teachers who really made the difference for me. I mean, that's like the one thing that I always tell people. It's the thing that I point to. It's the reason why I am motivated to work in the field that I work in, is because of incredible teachers. And there are too many to list. So I won't even attempt to list them, but you know who you are out there. If any of my former teachers watch this podcast, which they may, I so appreciate you. And for all my teacher friends out there, who I have a lot of teacher friends, thank you for what you do for kids every day. And thank you for not giving up on kids. I think it takes a special person to be a teacher and to hang in there with all the pressures, especially of the last year. But just even, I can tell you from being a teacher, the daily pressures are a lot under the best of circumstances. So just want to give a huge shout out to all the teachers out there. So some other things, I have like my little list, because I need a cheat sheet since it's been a little while. So other things that are going on, I've continued with rowing. So I think when I did the podcast the last time, I had just started on the rowing journey. I'm now like, I don't know, a year and a half into it. I mean, we had a little bit of a break during the total lockdown that happened from like mid-March through June, where there was nothing. And I have to say that when that came back, when rowing returned in a socially distant way, that was the one thing that we told ourselves we were going to allow ourselves to do. So that was like somewhat risky, although we were still very much in a bubble. We were still having to answer like questionnaires. They, were distancing us and still continue to do that. So I'm continuing with that. I'm thinking about getting a Peloton bike, though I don't want to be a traitor to my rowing family. But I also really love spinning and have missed that. I just haven't found a place here in DC that I like to spin, and I also find that spinning here is very, very expensive. So we'll see what happens. I do have a couple of friends who have Peloton bikes and love them and are campaigning for me to get one. So we'll see what happens with that. But so we're thinking about how to feather our nest, our new house. We ordered dining room table and chairs. We got these I think they're really cool. Who knows, maybe in 5 years we'll regret the decision, but they're like pink velvet chairs to go with the dining room table. So I'm really excited about that. We also bought a leather sofa, and Mike got us some antique lamps. So it's interesting because when we moved to Arkansas, originally that was the first time we had combined our homes, Mike and I. So we had to downsize then, and then when we moved from Arkansas here, we had to downsize even more because I think we had a little over 1,000 square feet in Arkansas, and we have 800 here. And now we're at the opposite point where it's like now we're moving into a much larger space and we don't have basic things that we need. So we're not gonna go hog wild, but there were some things like the kitchen table, we had to get that. Sofa, that was another one. Like we don't have a sofa here anymore. We had one before we moved here. We got rid of it, like so many other things. But yeah, so we're working on that. And then just kind of switching into the knitting portion. So thank you for hanging with me 15 minutes in, still, rambling away. I wanted to talk a little bit about this podcast, and I kind of, I was unsure whether or not I was going to come back, not for any negative reason, just from the perspective of my kind of approach, and also some observations about like the podcast like market, I guess. So about my approach is just very like casual. Like I am not into editing, I'm not into fancy effects, I'm not into like dramatic camera pans and like close-ups of yarn. Like that's just not what motivates me. In podcasting, like I like to do this just kind of unedited, like one take action format. It's also kind of a stream of consciousness format. I also like to just kind of be authentically me. So this is just who I am. So I wasn't sure about that. And then, this is gonna make me sound like bitter or something, but there's just a lot of podcasts right now. And there are a lot of like gay male knitters who are doing podcasts right now, or gay male crocheters as well. And I just kind of thought like, well, does the world really need like another, gay knitter talking to people who may not really care to listen? But I think there's something unique I bring, so I'm just gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna keep going. And we'll see how it all turns out. But again, like what you can expect from me, like this isn't about knitting fame. I'm not trying to like quit my day job and like become a YouTube celebrity. I'm not trying to like, appease or please anybody within the knitting community. Like that's not what I'm here to do. So yeah. Just wanted to share that before I jumped in. So let's actually jump in. I've got a couple current projects that I want to share with you. So the one that's probably the most current is an oldie but a goodie. And I'm actually, it's kind of embarrassing. I'm like middle of the way through a row, and I am actually taking the knitting out because I went one row too far. Anyway, I'm talking about it, but it's called the Nordic Wind shawl. You might hear a dog wheezing in the background. That's old man Oscar. This is a pattern by Cabin 4, and it's just literally like, essentially like a sheet of stockinette. This one calls for 4 colors, so I'm making this out of the Plucky Knitter's Snug Worsted. I can't attest to the quality of the yarn anymore. I'm not really buying Plucky Knitter anymore, but I think it is a yarn that they still do have available. It's wool, alpaca, and nylon. It's beautiful. It's so soft. It's like one of my favorite kinds of yarns to knit with, or it was, until some stuff went down with Plucky Knitter, but that's a story for another day. But I really enjoy making this, and I actually like just about to get this over the finish line. Like I probably have maybe 5 or so rows, and then I'll be ready to bind this off. So that's one thing I'm working on. And it's exciting because I'll get into it in a second, but I've got some like really good momentum. I don't know exactly where the momentum is coming from, but I'm not questioning it, and I'm just riding the wave. So I'll share a little bit about this in a second, but I have some things I've actually finished, so that's exciting. The other one that's on my like next up list after Nordic Wind, I think, don't hold me to it. If I can just get it arranged here. Okay. Is my Once in Floral sweater. Whoops, with the needle stabbing it. So, oops, see, it's all tangled up. Okay, let me hold it this way. So I'm actually past the hard part here. I mean, it depends on how you define hard part, but like there's a lot of color work that I've already accomplished, and like really hard color work, like three colors in one row color work, which is not easy. So I'm already like past the really hard part, and now I just have to like knit miles of stockinette, and I have to knit sleeves and a hem and stuff. So, and it's on, I'm sure you can tell, but it's on really thin yarn, which means it's on small needles, which means it will take a long time to finish. But I mean, how cool is that? I mean, I love my colors. I love roses. That's the other thing that we're so excited about. So for those of you who know us or have followed the podcast, one of the things that we really enjoyed in our Fayetteville apartment was we had a terrace and we grew English roses. And we haven't been able to have roses here because we have no outdoor space, but we will have outdoor space in our new place. And so we're really looking forward to getting some roses. In fact, we have some on order, so we're like ready to go. So those are my two projects I'm working on, the Nordic Wind and the Once in Floral Sweater. Excuse me. Both of them are just spectacular, like really, really fun to work on. The Nordic Wind, you couldn't get easier than that one in terms of, you know, just simple knitting, things like that. So the other thing that I'm working on that I'll probably cast on pretty soon, and I'm really excited to share a little swatch of with you guys, is the Normandale sweater. So let me just kind of give you a close-up here. So this is such an interesting piece. It's by Nora Gone. It's a cardigan sweater. I think it's unisex. They show it with both a man and a woman wearing it. And it's interesting because you're actually knitting, so two things make this really an interesting pattern. One is that you're using two really different weights of yarn. So this gold yarn is what we call a double knitting or a DK weight. It is kind of like a medium weight yarn. And you can actually see like there's a strand of it. So it's just kind of like a middle of the road weight. And then you're using this chunky yarn, and this is kind of a softly spun. You can see that it's thicker, and if I twist it actually like the wrong way, you could actually see that it has three individual plies. See how they're kind of coming apart up here? And this is a bulky weight. So you're knitting a bulky weight and a DK, a double knitting weight at the same time. And that's normally not something you would do in a knitting pattern. Again, convention kind of goes out the window these days with knitting, but generally speaking, you're not knitting two yarns that are so different together in a pattern. So that's one thing that makes it really interesting. The second thing that makes it really interesting is that you're using a technique called mosaic, where you're only knitting one color for each row. So it looks like this is kind of Fair Isle or Stranded or Intarsia, right? Like something where you've got, like I'm working with like gold and black, like on a row, but actually you're slipping stitches. And so it's hard to kind of explain for non-knitters, but you can see the back of the work. But on each row, you're only working one color. So you might work across and get to your gold stitches and slip those stitches and continue to knit with the black. And then when you get to the gold, you slip them, etc. The other thing that's kind of cool about this, so I said two things, but there's actually three things that are cool about this. So the third thing that's cool about this is because of the different yarn densities and the mosaic style, it creates like some spots where there's like a curve in the fabric, which again, you don't normally get that. So you can see that this fabric has a lot of movement and dimension in a way that like a lot of standard knitting wouldn't have. And this is supposed to actually be representative, the motif of bridges in Portland, Oregon. And so I I've been enamored with this pattern from the moment it was released, and I wanted to give it a shot. I had a couple friends who had actually made it. So my friend Steven made a really beautiful version of it. Seth Richardson, who is a pretty prominent male knitter, he had made a really beautiful version of it. There was a gentleman in Chicago who made a really beautiful autumn version. So my friend Drew, another Drew, who lives in Canada, he made a version of it. And so I had all these guy friends who made it and had a lot of success with it. And so I just wanted to try it. So yeah. Normandale is the name of the pattern. It's by Nora Gone, and it's available on Ravelry. So that's that other thing that's kind of in my queue. I'm trying to get like some of these unfinished projects done. So on that note, I want to show some things that I've finished since we last saw each other, which was a long time ago. So last year, I did not finish hardly anything. I started a lot of things, and I have a lot of half-done projects from last year, but I think I finished like 1 or 2 things. Don't tell anybody. I mean, I told the world, I guess, now, but something that I did finish, though, that was kind of exciting and new for me is I made a couple beanies. This is called the Bold Beanie. It is by Jake Kenyon of Ken Yarns. I made this using 2 strands of DK weight yarn. That's what the pattern calls for. Jake had some kits out of his yarn. I just used some yarn that I had in stash. So for this one, I used a strand of Madeline Tosh DK and a strand of Leon Alexander DK to give it this kind of cool marled look. So there was like a solid chocolate brown skein, as you can see, and then there was one that was like kind of green and cream and rust, and it kind of, you know, had all these fun bits. I also did this new brim technique where the brim is actually like attached. So this is actually like a double layer of fabric that I've got here. And then I made pom-poms, which I had not done before, and it was really fun. So this is Mike's hat, well worn, of course. This is mine, so I did like more of a funky 80s kind of take. I did like a dark green. It looks black, but it's actually like the darkest dark green you could imagine, with a bright pink peachy pom-pom, and then this speckly that's like kind of pastels. So that was the one I did for me. So we had hats, matching hats. So the other 2 things that I finished them within a week of one another, and they were both long-standing projects. So I'm like beyond proud to share these with you. So the first one, they're both huge, so you'll have to just forgive me, and I still have to weave my ends in. But this one, this is the Lima shawl. It's huge. So this is Lima, Olema, and it's by my friend Cassie Monksguard, available on Ravelry. It's got these really cool textured sections. So you see that there's a good amount of stockinette, but then the stripes, and then in between the stripes you have some texture, and then you've got some really cool, it's hard to see here, but some slip stitches in the edging as well, and it's just delightful. This was another one that I had, I knit out of a Plucky Knitter yarn. So this was Plucky Knitter Scholar #1. They had 2 kinds of scholars. This was Scholar #1. This is an interesting yarn because it has kind of a rustic feel, but it's 75% wool, 25% cashmere. So it doesn't feel like, you can't really feel the cashmere content in the yarn as you're knitting it, but when you wash the yarn, it transforms and it feels significantly lighter, and also you can really feel the softness of the cashmere come out when you wash it. So I have not washed it yet. I am holding off on washing this as well as a couple other unfinished projects, or I'm sorry, recently finished projects, I should say, until I move into the house, because I don't have anywhere here to even like block anything. But blocking, for those of you who are not knitters, is like washing your hand knits and then laying them out flat to dry, because a lot of the garments that we make are out of wool, and so you can't really like machine. It's not a good idea to machine wash them. They can get ruined, so you have to hand wash and lay flat to dry. And I have like literally, like I could take you on a tour. I won't, because this apartment is a disaster, but there's literally nowhere that I could even conceive of doing that here, because like every inch of our house is filled with stuff. Not that we're hoarders, it's just like we're two human adults with two dogs trying to like work from home in 800 square feet, and we have some stuff. So, okay. So the next item I have to show you, this is the one that I finished most recently. You thought the other one was huge. Well, this one is also huge. So this is Campfire Cozy. It's gigantic. This is out of a really pretty burnt orange yarn from Neurotic Natura. And the yarn is called Gilead. So if you've been following me at all this year on social media, or if you're a friend of mine, you've heard me talk about this yarn. It's called Gilead. And in fact, I have a skein of it. So this is a skein that I have left over that I didn't need to use for the shawl. So that's the spelling of it. It comes in a big, I don't know what you call this, a cake? Cake, I think, or hank, I don't know. I think it's a cake though. Anyway, yarn terminology. But this is like 250 meters, which is about 270 and change yards for 18 bucks. So that's actually like a really good value for an artisanal yarn. And excuse me, what's so interesting about this is that it has qualities of both a worsted spun yarn, so your traditional like tightly spun round yarn, and a woolen spun, which is kind of like your more rustic feeling yarn. There's a story behind it. Like the person who manufactures this yarn, I think, had to actually like push the yarn, the people who make the yarn, to use this special technique that combines worsted and woolen spun. There's also a very beautiful, and I'm gonna try to see if I can like, yeah, I think you can see it. There's a really beautiful heathered quality to this yarn. So you've got some really nice lights and darks. I'll just be honest, I really do not like Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. That's a yarn that I would say probably 80% of people really like. I think it's beautiful. I've worked with it before. I work with it sometimes. It's just not my favorite yarn. And so for this Gilead, part of the reason why I wanted to use this yarn was that it is similar in a lot of ways to the Brooklyn Tweed Shelter yarn, but is more pleasant to work with, I think. So I'm giving this a plug. So if you've got shelter projects and if you're like me and you're not crazy about shelter, this is a possible alternative for you. Even if you love shelter, I still think you should try this. You can get it from Fiberspace, though their selection sometimes is mixed. You can also go directly to Neurotic Natura. It's a French company, but they will ship, and they always have colors in stock, and so you can get it directly from them. It's beautiful, and it comes in dye lots, so it's nice too if you've got a bigger project and you don't have to worry about alternating skeins. And this is the finished product, so it's very exciting. This is another one that I have to block. So I mean, this is like easily 10, 11, 12 feet. And it was really fun to make too. It had sections, and so you can see like It started with a garter stitch, then it went into this kind of like basket kind of stitch, more garter, stockinette, and then we've got ribbing at the end. So I wasn't sure about my bind off. They had a crazy bind off, not a crazy bind off, but like, I don't know. I'm kind of I don't like to try new things. Neurotic knitter, you know? I mean, what can I say? I don't like to try new things sometimes when it comes to knitting, and there was this bind off that they were recommending that I was like, oh, this seems really fussy. So I just bound off in pattern. And I don't know if it's like that made a beautiful bind off or an ugly bind off. I'm actually pretty pleased with it. I think it came out pretty well, both in terms of its look and also its stretchiness. One of the things that non-knitters may not know is like when you finish off a piece, it's called binding off. And so you have to kind of, along one edge, you kind of fasten off the stitches. And for somebody like me who's neurotic, it can be like kind of anxiety inducing, even though it's like I've been knitting for a long time, because the bind off can sometimes look weird. It can sometimes, if you make it too tight or too loose, it looks funny at the end. So you're kind of trying to get into a sweet spot where you've got a neat and tidy edge, but it's also stretchy enough for blocking, because that's part of what will come with blocking too, is you'll lay your garment flat and you'll kind of stretch it just ever so slightly to its final dimensions. But anyway, Campfire Cozy, another really good knit. I would highly recommend it. So that I finished 2 shawls within a week. So I got a Lima over the finish line, I got Campfire Cozy over the finish line, and then I'm working on that Nordic Wind that I showed you at the beginning. So that's my 3rd one. So I'm hoping that I'll get that done tomorrow or Tuesday, and that will be my 3rd shawl in like 2 weeks. So that feels good. Okay, so a couple of other things to talk about. Let's see, I've got my little cheat sheet. I'm actually gonna grab some coffee. So one thing that you cannot see that's happening off camera is the dogs have gone from like scattered around the apartment to like literally right under my feet. Like they're not used to me sitting here and talking like I am, and so this has somehow alarmed them, and now they are clinging to me. I wish you could see them. They are on like red alert. They think something is gonna happen, which I'm gonna take them out in a few minutes, but like not till I'm done with you guys. So anyway, dogs. I don't know. Like, to be a dog during the pandemic, like I think our dogs are gonna be so upset if we ever have to go back to work. They expect us to like heed their demands like 24 hours a day. I don't know if anybody else's dogs are causing them as much joy as ours. Okay, so yarn haul time. Now this is a little bit older. But I got some yarn from Spun Right Round. Look at this. So I really wanted to try this yarn from Spun Right Round. This is the Squish DK. And I just got some single skeins for like hats or cowls, like other accessories. So this is Pack Your Maniac. It's got some purple, some blue. Got a teal moment happening at the end. So that's a really exciting skein. This one's called Papa Wheelie. I like this because it's kind of like got a neutral thing going a little bit. It's like, it's representing well. It's like kind of sandy, like almost like an oatmeal for the background. And then you've got some orange, which you know I love orange, blue, a little bit of purple up here. So that's an interesting one. Okay, this one is called Hellbent. It's gray with like little streaks of black and purple. And then the last one is kind of my favorite, though I don't know what it wants to be yet. Dirty taffy, not sticky taffy. What did I say? Dirty taffy. Okay, dirty taffy. So again, a lot going on here. It's kind of like a cream base, but it's got like hot pink and orange, bright green, like a lot of really fun colors, a lot of neon. See? Gotta love that. Gotta love neon. So I got that yarn from Spun Right Round. Honestly, compared to, I shouldn't say this because I'm gonna like jinx myself, or maybe, I don't think I'm really lying, but I have not been buying as much yarn as I normally buy. And so I don't have quite as much to show this time, even though it's been quite a while, because 2020 was not a year filled with like tons and tons of yarn purchases. There were some. I don't know why I'm trying to do this on here. Okay, I'll worry about that later. So yeah, I don't have like a ton to show, but I do have one other thing to show you. So I've been doing, there's a gentleman on Instagram called James Makes Yarn, and so you should check him out. His Instagram is @JamesMakesYarn, and he's doing, he does really fun, bright colors. That's kind of what I know him for, and lots of really fun speckles. So he's doing a monthly mini skein club called the Kaleidoscope Club. So I can show you the mini Kaleidoscope Club. So here's one. There's been 2 installments that I've received. So this is one installment. Pretty exciting. Okay, so I gotta put that one away. And then I have one more. Pretty cool. I don't know what these are gonna be. It's always a good thing when you're in knitting to be like, well, I just like the yarn. I don't know what it's gonna be. If I had a nickel for every time I've said that, I would have a lot of nickels. And you see evidence of that in my yarn stash. So anyway, I'm really excited about those mini skeins. So that's like one of the things that I'm kind of allowing myself in terms of new yarn. I am subscribing to that, to James's club, and I'm getting the mini skeins. But other than that, I really haven't done a ton of yarn buying. I did buy yarn for the Normandale sweater. So for this one, I didn't, because I'm not going to use these colors. I'm using like a dark navy for what is represented here in the black, and then like kind of a light gray blue, kind of a, I don't know what you would call it, a blue leaning gray. It's light for what's the gold here. So mine will be kind of more neutral, like navy and gray, as opposed to black and yellow. So that yarn has come. Already talked about the Gilliatt. Talked a little bit about minis. Yeah, I mean, and then other things just in my mind in terms of knitting. There's a lot of honeycomb stuff going on right now, so I've got a few shawls in the works for that. There's also was a really cool honeycomb sweater that Stephen West released, I want to say maybe back in February. It's called the Painting Honeycombs jacket, and it's like this kind of cool, almost like bomber jacket, but it's got like these big puffy sleeves. I don't know, I get into kind of the funky stuff sometimes. That's the dog coughing in the background. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I also am just into color work. I'm really excited to do the mosaic piece, which will involve some color work. I've got my rose sweater, which is color work. I've got a few other sweaters that I want to make that are color work. So that's generally like a staple in my my knitting wardrobe. But like lately I've just been really focused on finishing the unfinished projects. So I'm trying to like pick those off a little bit, like one by one. So I'm really pleased that I was able to get 2, and I've almost got now a 3rd done, long-term projects that have been on the needles. In terms of gadgets and gizmos, the one thing that's like still on my wish list for the knitter who has almost everything, but not everything, is this Fiber Artist Supply electric winder. So I don't know, many of you might be familiar with the Nancy Knickknacks winders that they sell to yarn stores and shops. This is very similar in a lot of ways. It is a tabletop mounted electric winder along with a Swift that will electrically wind your yarn for you, which is nice. Normally you have to kind of like crank it with a hand, and it's kind of unreliable. So I'm thinking that I might get that, but probably not until I'm back in our, not back, but we're in our new home. I will be able to have a yarn room there again, so I'm really excited about that. I'll be able to have like a space just for crafting. I'll actually be able to have like my own office space that will be office/crafting. So I'm really excited about that. Excuse me. It was something that I had in Fayetteville when we were living there that I'm just really excited to reestablish. So, gosh, I'm trying to think of what else there is to share with you guys. I don't know if there's anything else. I'm sure I'll think of something. I'm just really excited to be back with you all. I really have missed doing podcasts. I hope that this one went okay. I certainly hope to have more things to show you guys over the coming weeks and months. And I promise it will not be so long in between podcasts from here on out. So if you have the opportunity, if you can, subscribe. That's always great, to the Neurotic Knitter channel. If you want to like this video or share it on your own social media channels, that of course is always appreciated. Feel free to leave a comment below, either on Instagram or Facebook or on YouTube. And I'm looking forward to more content. You know, one of the big ideas that I have that I'm gonna get going on are knitter interviews. And these are just gonna be like regular people, like not knitting celebrities, not someone trying to push a product, not someone who's like, you know, well established, although maybe there'll be some of those people in the mix. But it's just like, I want to like interview my knitting friends, which sounds kind of weird, but like I want to hear some stories and have people share their fiber journey and share a little bit about what they like to knit. And I'd like to like play interviewer a little bit. So I'm really looking forward to upcoming content and episodes. Thanks for all of your support and for sticking with me through everything. I hope that you and yours are doing well in light of everything that's gone on in 2020. I'm sending you love, happiness, encouragement, safety, health, all of the good your way, from my heart to yours. And yeah, see you soon. And I'm looking forward to future podcasts, so stay tuned. Bye everybody.